On today's show, we're going to talk about the off-ball heroics of UConn's Azzi Fudd, the many injuries we've seen over the last few weeks in college basketball, and so much more. Locked Women's Basketball starts now.
Ogunbowale for the win.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.
Welcome. You're Locked Women's Basketball. My name is Hunter Cruse, and I'm the Saturday host covering the WNBA Draft and college basketball at large. Thanks for making Locked Women's Basketball your first listen every day. Remember, Locked Women's Basketball is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline as you cover this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. I'm joined by co-host Em Adler. Em is a beat writer for the Seattle Storm, in addition to their plethora of work at The Next. It's also worth mentioning that Em, Joshua, and I will be on watch playback for a live scout this Sunday at 1 p.m. for a matchup between Duke and Toledo. Celeste Taylor of Duke and Quenisha Lockett of Toledo are the two prospects that we have our eyes on in that game. Also, feel free to stay around for number 1 South Carolina against number 2 Stanford at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Visit www.playback.com to pair your account. To pair your respective streaming services, it's 100% free, and our rooms will be linked in the show description below with additional information. So let's get into the injuries we've seen over the last few weeks. There's been a lot of them. So at first, we have Aijha Blackwell from Baylor. That's probably the most significant of the injuries we've seen. She will be out for a significant time, if not the entire season, with a lower leg injury. That happened against SMU earlier this week. We also have Jordan Horston at Tennessee. She got banged up against UMass, and she's day-to-day with a left leg injury, so a lot of leg injuries. We also have Diamond Miller. She got hurt in the first game, like the first half of the first game against George Mason with a right knee injury. She's back now. Appears to be playing well, but that's something to monitor as well.
And that is the same knee that she had issues with last year that essentially took her out for a couple months, I believe, and significantly hobbled her for essentially the entire season. She had off-season surgery on that right knee.
Yes. And then as well, we also have not a 2023 prospect, but Caitlin Clark of Iowa. Very end of the game against Kansas State. She got injured. She's day-to-day with I believe it's an ankle injury. Is that correct?
Yep, it looks like a badly rolled ankle. Could have been worse.
Yeah.
Having the update on her as being day-to-day is pretty much a win for everyone.
So what do you think is do you think it's just luck that all these prospects are getting injured? Do you think there's any reason for that?
I mean, I think it's a mixture of factors. You're always going to have injuries at the beginning of the season, specifically because this is the time when there's the greatest difference in physical activity between one period to the next. So we're going from off-season workouts. You haven't played this level of competitive ball in months, and you're going right into playing full speed, full time against top opponents. And that's what we see just in the course of these games here with what's happening to them. Also, another issue that was brought to our attention by Missy Heydrich, former player at Kansas State, announcer for the Big 12 network, and also a lovely contributor at The Next, as she has her own pods here. As she mentioned, there are differences in training programs from school to school. And what you have when you go from one school and you transfer to another one is you have people who are telling you to build up your body and train it in different ways. And, these things have to be done gradually. You have to acquiesce to these, or you have to get used to them gradually. Otherwise, you can see a lot of stress being placed on muscles in ways that they're not used to being stressed in these physical trainings. So you have to be very careful with these. And so there's a lot of different factors that go into it.
Yeah, especially with her usage role at Iowa. There's just so much going into that and making sure she's healthy for the rest of the season. So let's get into the games of the week. We'll start with Tennessee, Indiana. Like I said, we did not get to see Jordan Horston in this game due to her injury, but we did see some standouts from Rakia Jackson. She had 17 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. and 2 stocks in this game. Hit a couple threes as well, which is kind of big for her development, just kind of expanding that offensive game as well. Grace Berger does a bit of everything. She had 13 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists on 6 of 11 from the field. Another person that struggled for Indiana, but she also had her flashes, was Sarah Scalia. She had 16 points, 4 rebounds, 2 of 9 for 3, which is uncharacteristic from her. Some finishing struggles as well. I know Em didn't actually get to see this game, but
I did not. ESPN, very wonderful with the ESPN Plus when they have things on demand when you don't see them, and somehow this one wasn't.
Yeah, some of them just don't show up after a while. It's
nope.
Yeah, so
unfortunately, I was robbed of what seemed to be a great game.
Yeah, very highly contested. I know the Atlanta Dreams assistant GM was in attendance. There was another rep. I forgot who it was from.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to be seeing scouts just make it to all of these high-profile games across the country. If you're a reporter, if you're a fan, and you happen to see one at the game, see if you can, and you just want to talk draft. I have found the scouts are often very happy to talk if you know what you're talking about, and you just make conversation. That's one of the best ways to, frankly, build up your knowledge of the game and of the landscape in terms of the talent and what you're seeing, what you're not seeing, what you can find on film, and what scouts are looking for that you haven't thought about before. It's really interesting. And I think that's one of the things that you look at in this game when you see so many different stat lines when you're looking at Mackenzie Holmes. I've seen her 3-point shot this year. She's doing it more than she has before. Something she was working on in the past. The form's a little weird, but look, she's taking them and she starts making them. That could make her into a real prospect. For Kia Jackson, I mean, we've seen her shooting threes before at Mississippi State, but to come out and go 2 of 3 from 3 like she did, it's tantalizing. At the very least.
We talked about it last week with Kia Jackson and her potential fit with Atlanta, because that's in the cards. Between her and Diamond Miller are probably the 2 biggest players for that pick. But I think just kind of her shooting ability, if that can continue to expand to where teams are going to continually draw closeouts or continually bring closeouts on her, helps her downhill slashing ability, which she actually did flash in this game. I saw a lot of that. It was just her downhill play finishing and stuff like that. It was she had 4 assists to 5 turnovers, but we've seen it with Tennessee this year. They turn over the basketball a lot. So I'm not sure if it's team-based, player-based, both. It's just a lot to get. And you want to move over to?
I'm just going to say you're gonna have to take some more than a couple grains of salt when it comes to Jordan Horseman or Kia Jackson's turnover totals this year. It's a little hard to have more assists than turnovers when you are tasked with a lot of creation because you don't have any real lead guards and all your spacing is in the form of everyone clogging the paint. It's a little hard to throw through defenders or past them.
Yeah.
And they're all right around you.
So coming up shortly, we'll dive into some standout games from this week, including a highly anticipated top 5 matchup between UConn and Texas. First, let me tell you guys about Masterclass. With Masterclass, you can learn from the world's best minds, anytime, anywhere, and at your own pace. You can learn how to play tennis from Serena Williams, improve your shooting skills from 4-time NBA champion Steph Curry, or learn the fundamentals of leading championships from Gina Auriemma. With over 180 classes from a range of world-class instructors, that thing you've always wanted to do is closer than you think. And Masterclass is accessible on your phone, web, or smart TV, offering classes on a wide variety of topics, all taught by world-class instructors at the top of their fields. Each class is broken down into individual lessons, usually around 10 minutes long. I highly recommend you check it out. This holiday, we give you 1 annual membership and you get 1 free. Go to masterclass.com/lockedon today. That's masterclass.com/lockedon. Terms apply. Thanks for making Locked On Women's Basketball your first listen every day. For your second listen, check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter most, the biggest stories, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Okay, let's go into UConn, Texas.
This was highly contested coming in, of course. This is the number 3 versus the number 5. And anytime you have a top 5 matchup and it's coming on, the 3rd or 4th day of the regular season, it's going to be good. It's going to be a good game. And the first half was excellent. It was super close. Teams went into halftime, I want to say separated by only a point or two. And then UConn sort of pulled away in the third quarter. Texas got into foul trouble really throughout the entire game, and it sort of just came to a head in the third quarter. They had to make a whole lot of subs. They were playing players that are not ideally going to be featured heavily in their rotation this year, and UConn just sort of pulled away. They were up, I think, like 18 in like 2 minutes to go in the third quarter or something. Texas made it a little bit closer in the fourth, but it was a little hard to overcome that run. There's a lot of prospects in this game. We talked about this to each other before, but there's Shaylee Gonzalez, who we've talked about. There are players on UConn and Texas who we're both looking for in the future. Taylor Jones in this class could be an interesting post. But, the player who stood out the most, 32 points from Azzi Fudd from UConn. The off-ball guard was just lighting it up. She had 16 points coming into the fourth quarter, and I thought that was impressive as it was. And then she doubled her scoring in the fourth quarter. I believe she didn't miss an entire shot in that period, 16 points. And just the ways that she manipulates the game off the ball with her gravity and her movement, like her acumen for moving without the ball is unbelievable. This is stuff that it's hard to teach to, seniors or to players in the professional leagues. And she knows exactly where to lift, exactly where to save to, and exactly how to cut. And I'll hand it over to you to talk about her jumper specifically.
Yeah. The jumper is super impressive because I've seen this comparison used before where it's Eric Gordon. She has like absolutely no dip in her jump shot. Like absolutely no. It's so fluid and compact to where she'll catch it, no dip, no drop, fire right away. So it's like that kind of stuff where it's like quick releases, quick fire ability that makes her such a special shooter. And like we've also seen her expand her game without having Paige Beckers. She's also had a lot of on-ball reps. In this game, there was a couple, like in the first half specifically, she had a couple of nice pull-up middies that were fun to see from her as well. So I think what kind of makes her special as well is just her lower body strength as well. I think she has some potential to be a really good driver, a lot of versatility with her game. And she's only a sophomore, which is crazy because I want to propose a question about where would you draft her if she was in this class? Like for me, I would say she's probably number 2, mate. Okay, it's between 2 and 3. I think it's obviously Aaliyah Boston at 1, but like I think it's
for sure.
Yeah.
The thing about her, and before I say that, I'll say on the Eric Gordon comp because that's fun in terms of the shooting motion. The thing about Eric Gordon is, of course, like the thing is he could take a lot of threes and hit them efficiently enough, but he's not like the biggest floor spacer. But the thing with her is she's taken, I think on the order of like 70 shots from outside 25 feet. She's hit them at like 56% in like that's freshman year plus two or three games this year. That's unbelievable, man. We're talking about a player who I want to say is going to turn 20 sometime soon. She's still in her teenage years, and she is hitting these numbers from like 26, 27 feet with just the lightning quick release. And her pull-up is like one dribble, two dribble, spot up, move into the pull-up. This is a player who I think is the best off-ball player in the entire country right now. And I would not be shocked if were this the men's NBA and you could get drafted immediately after a year of college, I would not be shocked if she was the best like off-ball player in the pro leagues within a couple of years. So
yeah.
given the fact that shooting is real, for sure, there's no doubt that shot strike.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
I might put 2 or 3 is where I'd go here. It's hard to project.
It depends on the team, I think. It depends on the team.
Yeah, it depends on the team. I think it also depends a little bit on what you project in terms of her defense. We haven't seen a whole lot of it just because UConn plays pretty well. They usually help out their guards with bigs pretty decently. And, Azzi was usually the 4th or 5th most important defender in terms of who she was covering last year. But, look, I'm being a dork. I'm talking about Azzi Fudd's defense here. She'd probably go number 2 in this class. It's unbelievable what she can do.
Yeah, of course. And going back to the Eric Gordon comp, Eric Gordon is like a microwave scorer. Like in his younger days, he was like an elite athlete, but the scoring ability is nothing compared to what you see with Azzi Fudd. The efficiency is crazy. Like we're gonna keep harshing on this throughout the season, but her efficiency is nuts. Her usage rates continue to go up as she gets more involvement in the offense and more comfortability with this team. I think she's She's the best player on this team, undoubtedly, and one of the best prospects, regardless of class, in the country. So,
and the thing about her usage is like the usage rate is up, but that's just all finishing shots. And it's not having to pound the rock into the ground and just.
Oh yeah, she's not a ball stopper
15,
at all.
20 seconds on the clock. She touches the ball for like 4 or 5 seconds at most at a time. Like you can just she moves so well within a team offense without having to touch the ball. I mean, it sucks that we're robbed of time with her and Paige Bueckers playing together. But I mean, the amount of on-ball reps she's getting this year, if Paige is able to recover well next year, God, that's going to be a lethal combination.
Yeah, that quick decision making is like unreal for her age and her position as well. Because like, contrary to someone like Zia Cook, it's night and day. Like just the processing is like crazy different.
Zia Cook just over here catching strays. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I like Zia Cook. I like Zia Cook.
I see what
you're
saying. Yeah, and I mean, speaking of guards with concerns about shooting, like Zia Cook, we have on the other side of it Shaylee Gonzalez. I've made it known what I think about her before. I liked her floor game in this one. I thought it was pretty impressive within the flow of Texas offense. I remained relatively impressed with her ability as a help defender, and I think there's a real. I think she's very much in the sort of like mid to upper tier of guard defenders. But man, she could not get the ball past 35 feet out. She was just hounded all game by Nika Mule in this one. Like the ball pressure that she was unable to get by up top was. I don't know if that's more a Nika Mule thing or more a Shaylee Gonzalez thing, because Nika Mule is an excellent guard defender for UConn. But oh man, that's real concerning.
Yeah, that was my number one note. She just struggled to get by anybody. Like that first step, I don't know. She got walled off a couple times, and like she had 6 assists, 5 turnovers, 6 points, and 2 of 8 from the field. So really rough game from her. I mean, I think we're still high on her game, like where she can get, but it's a rough early season performance for sure.
Yeah, and it's been a while. I mean, at BYU, your schedule is what it is. Like Gonzaga's a really good team to play. You play them at least twice a year, and they have some interesting matchups in the NCAA tournament. But BYU doesn't schedule a pretty good non-con most of the time outside of like home and homes with Oklahoma. So, she didn't play against guard defenders, like good guard defenders there. So this was an unknown coming in. It's a concerning sign, but as scouts, we're looking to see, okay, what is she going to do against people who maybe aren't Nika Mule but are still good guard defenders? When you get to, Big 12 play isn't the headiest when it comes to like point of attack defense, but when it comes to some of these non-conference matchups that might be coming up for Texas, they do tend to schedule big ones. I want to say they play Stanford this year, and that's going to be a huge, tough one for her. So we're going to look at not only how does she do against people who maybe are like 70th percentile guard defenders instead of 90th, and also in the event that maybe she still struggles with that, or even given the struggles, we're trying to see, okay, when Rory Harmon, Texas's probably true point guard, comes back, Shaylee Gonzalez is going to go a little more off the ball. How does she function as a secondary ball handler? That's, a huge thing that we're looking for here, because that's a role that, you can fit into with her level of defense. It affords her the ability to move a little bit down on the usage rate on offense. So we want to see how that'll go.
Yeah. So, and they actually might play Gonzaga. She actually might play Gonzaga again, like a week from now, around there. So, it's definitely a different situation, and it's obviously gonna have an adjustment from playing in the WCC. Yeah. So after the break, we'll wrap up our notable prospect games of the week and our first prospect of the week award. We might actually have 2 this week just because there's a couple fun performances to talk about to close this episode. BetOnline.net is your number one source for football betting this season. Find all of your latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, in-depth articles, and analysis on every game you can find. The fastest and easiest way to check out all your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to betonline.net or your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. Okay. So quickly, I'm going to just go through this one game. A couple days ago, it was Duke against Texas A&M. The main standout in this game was Celeste Taylor. She had 14 points, 10 rebounds, 2 steals, won 5 of 16 from the field. I know you were in attendance for this game. What did you think from
It was.
Yeah.
So first off, I'll say Duke won by, I think it was 19 or 21 points. They were up like 25, 26 points after 3 quarters, and then they put in mostly bench players for the 4th quarter, and Kara Lawson came into that's Duke's head coach, came into the post-game press conference, and she starts it off by basically going, I just can't get that 4th quarter out of my head. We lost the 4th quarter. She was like, and she was like, played 3 really good quarters, but in the ACC, you gotta put together 4 good quarters. And all of us in the media room were just looking at each other like, they were up 26 and then put in the bench. What are we talking about here? So that is all to say. Duke's pretty good and has a pretty driven coach. Celeste Taylor, to me, has looked more or less how she has looked before. I was hoping for a little more like obvious development here in terms of the quality of the finishing, maybe, or in terms of the frequency of the jump shot. So those are a little concerning. Or I should say the long jump shot. She's still real good from the mid-range. Although, you're hoping for a little bump in efficiency as the season goes along. She made Duke's first 3 of the game at basically the 7-minute mark of the 3rd quarter. I want to say she was 1 for 1 or 1 for 2 from 3. This is not a particularly strong shooting team, but also they were killing A&M on the interior, so she didn't need to do that as much. She had some issues finishing in transition where she was trying to stretch out around a defender instead of maybe taking what could have been a couple free throws. We'll see how that develops as the season goes along. I'd say mostly her defense has been, excellent as we thought it was before. Just hoping for a little more on the jumper, a little more finishing this year.
Yeah. And someone else that stood out for this game, not a prospect for this year, but Janiyah Barker, I think that's her name. She had 13 points, 5 rebounds, 4 of 8 from the field. Didn't she get hurt? Didn't she get hurt in this game?
So it looked to me like she might have re-aggravated her, what was a right ankle sprain from a week or 2 ago. The post-game press conference, A&M's head coach, Joni Taylor, said, the injury was just, maybe she had to ice it a little more than she had, but she suffered that a couple weeks ago. But oh man, oh my God, Janiyah Baker. If you're doing your composite rankings for prospects, she's the number 2 prospect in the country coming into this year. Duke was one of her 5 finalists. She narrowed it down to 3, and then ended up choosing Georgia, but she followed Joni Taylor from Georgia to A&M. And oh my God, just she was hitting contested threes. She's hitting contested pull-up mid-rangers. Her defensive length, she plays with really well. Her athleticism at 6'3" with her wingspan is truly unbelievable. And I just have to laugh. I mean, there's just so much talent there. And again, it's a 6'3" player with that length who can just hit contested threes. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, she hit one against it was above the break. It was against Celeste Taylor. It was and that's one of the best guard defenders in the country. A freshman and one of her, it was probably her first big match of her college career so far. I mean, it's nuts stuff. Okay. So let's stay in
this is supposed to be a very good freshman class. We're only 3 games into the season, so there's not that much opportunity. I meant to mention this before. Aijha Patterson at UConn in the Texas game, she flashed a hell of a lot of potential. Grace Van Sluten at Oregon, the things she's able to do off the dribble right now are freaking ridiculous. There's going to be a lot more talent that's going to emerge from this class, and it's going to be a good one.
Should we stay in the ACC and go to your prospect of the week at Notre Dame?
I'm a big fan of the ACC. What can I say? So I literally just tweeted about this morning. My prospect of the week has to be Olivia Miles. She had, I want to say, 26 points on 61% true shooting against Northwestern this week. Northwestern, not the best team in the world, but, not the worst team either.
They got destroyed by Oregon. Did they get, beat?
Yeah, I talked to some people around Division I women's basketball, and they were about as shocked as I was that Northwestern, a team that just barely missed the tournament last year, they did lose their best player to the draft, but they barely missed the tournament. They have decent talent. They have some top prospects from a couple years ago, and they essentially got doubled up. About 100 to 50.
You usually see those scores against a high major team and a low major team, but that was 2 high major opponents, and it's
Yeah, Oregon was trying to bring in a decent competition to open the year. They weren't trying to do the thing where you bring in a high D2 or a team that just jumped D1, and they still finished 100 to 50. It's
That is so
unbelievable.
annoying.
It was unbelievable. But anyway.
Let's get back to Olivia Miles.
Yes. So it was a little bit of a closer game this time for Northwestern. They only lost by around 35 or 40, despite having two of their best players and starters ejected in like the middle of the second quarter because essentially they left the bench during the team altercation. Olivia Miles also got ejected in this game in the late third quarter, I think, but that was because she was shit talking. She got ejected for essentially just jawing at a Northwestern defender after she got fouled on inbounds. And let me tell you, it was hilarious. They showed a replay where you can basically see Miles saying, "If you got something to say it to my face," and she somehow got ejected for that, which stopped her day at around like low 20s points. She had, I think, 4 assists, 4 steals, and look, that doesn't tell the whole story of the 4 assists because in the clip I tweeted out this morning, there were some ones where she had a hockey assist, and it was the velocity she's getting on these things is unbelievable. She's off the dribble. She's picking up the ball with one hand at her hip and whipping it across her body to the opposite corner, right on a line. She is genuinely like easily the best passer in Division I. Like, I don't understand how she's doing what she's doing as like kind of a sophomore. She's currently in her 4th semester, so kind of a sophomore, kind of a junior. I'm interested to know what she plans to do in terms of declaration for the draft. She could go in 2 years or next year.
That'd be fun.
Really interesting. That'll be super interesting. If she goes next year, that's the greatest. That's easily the greatest lottery we've ever had in this.
We also have Blackwell as well. She might come back as well. We didn't mention that earlier
because she could be out for the season with that injury.
Yeah.
Miles, like, she's developing as a defender. She's not bad off the ball. She kind of knows where to go for help assignments. She's developing her ability to keep her feet and hips in front on defense. She's got great hands. She's obviously a plus rebounder. She's getting all these triple doubles for a reason. I think the jumper is going to fall soon. And if the jumper falls soon, this is insane. She has a ridiculous crossover. Her burst has looked pretty good off the line. Or not off the line, sorry. That's a football term. At the point of attack. It's a concern I had last year was beating people in isolation. And she has a killer crossover right now. And her burst looked really good against Northwestern. And she's an unbelievable finisher. She draws fouls. If the jumper falls, she's hitting threes off the catch, and she had like a Harden-esque step back three in this game. She didn't hit it, but it basically went in and out. This is the kind of game, I said it somewhere, this is the kind of game where you look at it and you say, oh, yeah, I see how that's the best player in the world in a couple of years.
Okay. So, what did you think of Kylie Watson? I know she's also at Notre Dame. What did you see from her? She was at Oregon last year.
Yeah, so like from a college perspective, I like her a lot. Notre Dame had a center last year whose name unfortunately escapes me. She had transferred Maya Dodson. She transferred him from Stanford. She ended up going to the Mercury in the 3rd round, mostly because they needed centers, training camp bodies.
She was at Notre Dame.
Yeah, she transferred to Notre Dame
and
then she was drafted by Phoenix. Yeah, she was very good. She was a very good college center and fills gaps, and that's how I feel about Kylie Watson. She doesn't have quite the same length defensively. She's not quite as good against like guards, hedging in space against the pick and roll. But she has the athleticism. The footwork's quite there. She's good at like sticking in front of people. She can test shots, and on offense, she can take mismatches off the dribble or like slower centers. She's solid in the pick and roll right now. Do I like her as a prospect? At this rate, given her development since she got to Notre Dame, probably worth a training camp invite. I can't say that I'm anticipating too much in the future, but just a really solid, really good actually, collegiate big. Notre Dame just has an unbelievable roster this year.
Yeah, so now I'll give it to my player of the week. I have Em's beloved Hannah Jump at Stanford. Just talking about this last performance she had, 24 points on all of her shots are threes. This is her shot profile. It's all threes, no rim, no mid range, only threes. 8 for 15 from 3. And Joshua can't be here today, but he had a stat that he posted on Twitter. Jump is one of 7 players since 2009 to 2010, which if you aren't aware, that's the Her Stats era. It doesn't go before that, so that's what our data sample is. She is the one of 7 players to take 15 3-point attempts on 50% shooting without a 2-point attempt or free throw attempt. So it's crazy. I don't know like if we've seen a player like this recently where it's all threes. And I'm in one of the prior games I was watching. I watched the first half because it was like a blowout. She made a layup, and like it was crazy to me, but I was like, yeah, she made a layup, and the craft is good. Like the craft is good, but like the attempts are so few and far between. Yeah,
You don't need her to.
yeah, you don't need her
Maybe
to.
you would ask her more layups if you needed her to, but you don't.
Yeah, I mean, she's shooting above 50% from 3. I mean, that's a quality place to go to get points. Have you seen any of her games from this?
Oh boy, have I! I mean, based on the box score that I'm seeing from, and I did watch a little bit of this game. I saw the highlights, of course. Based on the shot distance chart I'm seeing from CDB Analytics. Shout out to Nick, love him. It's the best college stats site for men's or women's basketball that exists by far. Based on what I'm seeing from that, and based on her stat line, I at least half her threes came from outside 25 feet. I mean, I've talked about this before. Her range is absurd. Come on. She's getting more attempts than before. Josh had a concern about, their somewhat limited volume and somewhat limited minutes, which is fair. Stanford they're in the rotation they ran before. They often were subject to a little criticism for maybe overplaying Anna Wilson or Lacey Hall when they really needed some shooting and scoring, but they don't have too many options at guard this year, and Hannah Jump is benefiting, and we are too.
She only played 23 minutes too. I didn't even mention that. 23 minutes against Cal Poly. 24 points in 23 minutes is like insane efficiency. And I want to see what she does tomorrow against South Carolina. Because she could go nuclear.
Great game.
She could go nuclear and quick. So it's gonna be something to watch, of course.
That's gonna be a big test for. She's probably going to be covered by Zia Cook in that game because Zia Cook they usually have chasing someone around the 3-point line. So you got our best shooting prospect and someone who we need to see something defensively from.
Yeah, but Zia Cook, like how many inches does Hannah Jump have on her? Like 4 or 5?
Hannah Jump is listed. I want to say it's 6 foot flat. Zia Cook's listed at 5'9".
Is it 5'7"?
She's listed. I actually don't know.
It might be 5'9", but she's probably closer to 5'8". You can never trust the.
Yeah, Yeah, and I think I've been told that Hannah Jump's 6'0" it's a pretty low 6'0". She's looking at like 3 inches probably.
Oh, yeah, so her jumper's so quick though. So we'll see how much of it.
We'll see if the jumper erases it or like exacerbates that.
Yeah. So, but thank you guys for listening. And making Locked On's basketball your first listen. For your next listen, check out Locked On Sports Today podcast. The biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.